Welcome to the De-Stress Podcast with me, Dr. Amanda. On this podcast, I highlight the often underestimated effects that stress can have on our lives and our health by sitting down and having some incredible, fascinating conversations with experts and everyday people. So guys, in today's episode, I'm talking about something that has been causing me active stress. And it's something that if you have children, you will be going through right now, you would have gone through, or it's about to come and hit you. And that is deciding how to educate your children. From the time they come out of the womb, you're educating them, whether it's teaching them how to sleep or eat or teach them how to communicate and manage their emotions. But there does come an age when you need to start teaching them a bit more practical or a bit more, I don't know, you have to teach them more substantial things. I'm talking about how to read, how to write, how to do maths, science, etc., etc., etc. And in the UK, at the age of 4, you have the choice of sending your child to school. There are some people that choose to do some homeschooling, and that is another conversation that I'd love to have in the future about the choice between homeschooling and going into a school setting. But if you choose a school setting, it's not just that choice that you have to make. You then have to pick which school to send them to. And my daughter is turning 4 in December. And well, it's time for me to select the schools. And I can tell you that I found this process quite stressful. Deciding between private school and mainstream school, Christian school, and then actually picking the right school itself, and having so many different factors that comes into the decision. And I was actually sat down at a family friend's house when I spoke with another family friend who's on this podcast today, and she gave me such good advice just in the space of, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, maybe it was half an hour, but I had to get her on the podcast because I know that there's so many of you that are going through the same thing or will do in the future. And so this video is one where you need to sit down, get your notebook out, take the notes, and get ready to make the right decision for your child. I sit down today with 2 incredible women who are both in the primary school education field. The first is Debonair Brown. She has been in the field of education for the last 30 years and has been working as a head teacher in primary school since 2008. Now, Debonair, she has worked in a variety of different schools, including in inner city London, where there are multicultural and multilingual schools, dealt with private school and mainstream education, and now she finds herself head teaching in Bedfordshire. The second person I speak to is Suzanne Worrell, who is a mother of 3 and a grandmother to 1, and started her journey in education, early years education, when she started her journey in motherhood. I think when you become a mom, a lot of the time, new things are opened up to you that you didn't consider before. And so when her eldest child was going into a preschool setting, for her to return to work after maternity leave, she found herself really interested in the early years education. She has just completed a Master's of Art in early years education, and she started her journey initially in preschool and now works in year 1 and reception. She has a passion for making the outdoors accessible to children, working in forest schools, and she also really enjoys partnering with parents because parents are the first educators. This conversation was so useful and practical for me right now, and so I really hope that you enjoy it. So hello, Debonair and Suzanne. Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast episode. Today's episode is a bit different to usual. As you know, on here, we discuss about stress and the ways to navigate it, but a lot of the time it has a focus on health. But today is a bit of a self-serving episode because it's about an area that I found quite stressful, and it's actually trying to navigate this transition of putting your children into school and understanding that. And so usually there's a lot of talking that comes from me, but today I've got 2 wonderful experts here to talk with us about that first transition of putting your child into school and how to navigate through all of that. So welcome both of you. Please, before we get into all the nitty-gritty stuff, can you tell me a bit about yourselves?
Oh, well, my name's Suzanne, and I've been working in early years education since my youngest daughter started nursery school. I was really interested in the learning and the development that I was seeing within her early years education. And I started my journey of learning with early years. I've just finished my master's degree in early years education, integrated working with families. But I started my teaching career as a volunteer in a preschool. I then became a key worker within a preschool, working with a small group of children. I then took on the role of a leader of a nursery class in a church school, and then manager of a preschool, working very closely with the improvement officers to move it from the Ofsted rating it had been given to their good rating. I then came into a school to carry out forest school activities and was invited into the reception class, which I'm now teaching along with some year one children.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.
Right, so I'm Debonair. I've been in education for over 30 years now, and I was trained as a primary school teacher, 7 to 11, but my first teaching role was a maths lecturer back at the college where I was a student, so that was a really lovely experience. I then, after a year, went back into primary education, where I worked with some fantastic individuals, honed my skills, and within 5 or 6 years, I moved on to become a deputy head. So as a deputy head, I worked in an inner city school in London with some wonderful, wonderful individuals. And from there, I think it was 2008, I took on my first headship. And I was there for a substantial amount of time. And then in 2018, I came here for my next headship. So I've had the privilege of working with some very fantastic people who are committed to bring out the very best in children and wanting to improve themselves. So that's where I am. I have 2 children, one who's 13 and one who is 9. And does it get easier? Well, there are other avenues to navigate,
Yeah.
I'd say. But yes, so that's me.
Okay, brilliant. And I always like to share as well how I came to know you both and bring you onto the podcast, because everyone's always interested, like, where did I find such people with such knowledge of the subject that we're going to discuss. And well, Debonair, I've known you my entire life. Actually, we are family friends from met each other through church, I guess. And your parents, actually your dad blessed me as a baby, and so literally entire life. And where this kind of conversation came from, and Suzanne, you work with Debonair and you've introduced us both, that's how we've come here today. But it was a few months ago, I think it was still this year, so a few months ago, we were at a mutual family friends for a dinner, and you asked me, oh, what am I doing in terms of school for my eldest Isabella? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. And because right now there's a lot of information coming at me from different people. I've got people in my church community that are doing homeschooling. I have a lot of people in my work who are doing private education, and I just, knowing where to go, what to do next has been definitely a point of stress and consideration. I really thought that my husband, who's a teacher, would be able to just navigate us through this, but he does secondary school and quite frankly isn't involved in admissions or anything. And so we're both novices at this. And I know so many people are, because until you have a child going to school, most people it's just not something that you ever think about. And so I do have some questions that I'd love to be addressed in this, but also because of your expertise and your years of experience, whatever information you think would be helpful to parents listening about navigating this transition into full-time school education would be really helpful. But I guess my first question is, in terms of picking a school, my big question has been the difference between private education and mainstream schooling. Is there really a right choice to make? Is there a big difference between it? If you have the means to do private school and you choose not to, are you doing your child a disservice? Kind of, how do you navigate that decision? And then once you've made the decision, what do you need to take into account when actually picking the school? That's the first big question.
I think when we're talking about private education, Amanda, I think at the end of the day, it really is your preference, totally your preference. And your preference will be based on your own child. I've worked in private schools, I've worked in mainstream, I've gone to a private school, and I've gone to mainstream school. So all I can say, the decision is left to the parent. Some parents love it, some parents choose to go to mainstream, some in mainstream choose to go to private. So that in itself is a parental choice, totally parental choice. So no matter which you choose, the key thing that you're looking for when selecting this school, and I know that many parents will say, well, I've looked at the Ofsted report and the Ofsted tells me this school is good, this school is outstanding, or this school is inadequate. That's where parents will go first. And that's not a problem, because you want to have a feel for the school. And remember, your Ofsted is 1 or 2 days insight into your school. So it's much wider than just an Ofsted report. It is much wider, but it's a good starting point. You want to consider that when you're going to place your child in a school, you want to look at the data, and the data in terms of your GLD. And your GLD stands for a good level of development. That's what you want to look for. And when we're talking about GLD, it's a form of a summative assessment, and it's a judgment which is made for each EYFS, so early years foundation stage child, at the end of reception. And it's a measure of attainment, and you are achieving a good level of development, which will help to make, or it will help to allow your child to make a good start in reception, and then on to key stage 2, year 1. Sorry, not key stage 2, I beg your pardon, key stage 1, year 1. And when we're talking about GLD, it's about reaching an expected level of development at the end of reception, and it's based on learning outcomes in terms of the 7 prime learning areas. And when we talk about those 7 areas, we're talking about communication and language, we're talking about physical development, we're talking about the physical, social, and emotional development, literacy, the maths, understanding the world, and expressive arts and designs. So all of these are taken together holistically, and they're all interconnected, and they form a complete picture of the child. So you want to have a look at the GLD. That's important to look at when you are making a judgment on which school you want to send your child to, because you want to know that there's an attainment, there is progress. You will want to also look at the phonics outcomes. So your phonics is the reading, or rather the decoding of reading. You want to see whether or not that's at expected, or whether that's working below or significantly above. Because reading is a very important tool, because if our children are unable to decode and comprehend, then they're going to struggle, because reading isn't everything. Our maths, our history, our everything. So you want to be looking at the phonics outcome, and the phonics is a screening that's taken at the end of year 1 as well. What you'd also like to do, I would argue, is have a look at the phonics scheme that's being taught. So you have a range of them, and looking at the phonics, you yourself as a parent, you can just dip in to see, oh, actually, this is a useful tool to use. Be it Little Wandle, be it Read Write Ink, be it Sounds Right, be it Jolly Phonics. There's a range of them. And some parents like to know that actually, does this phonics program link with what my child was learning in nursery?
That's a good
so
point.
There's that transition and that support. So that's important as well as your Key Stage 1 data. Now, Key Stage 1, this year was the last year actually they were doing it. They're not. It's not compulsory. It's not a statutory test anymore going forward for next year. However, some schools can still opt to do it. And your Key Stage 1 measure outcomes are an indication of where, or not necessarily an indication, but they provide the progression that's needed, progressive measure at the end of Key Stage 2.
Okay.
So your Key Stage 1, you'll usually have a score. Your child will have a score. And from there, a measure is taken at the end of Key Stage 2, and that provides a good indication of the progress that a child has covered from Key Stage 1, so 7, right through to 11. So that used to be, that's a really good indication. So though a school may have low attainment, your progress could be extremely good. And the progress measure is as important as the attainment, because your progress is an indication that actually the quality of teaching and learning has been sound and it has been driving improvements for my child. There may be other factors depending on where your school is or what other barriers to learning they may be. But as long as there is a progression, then that's a good indication as well. So it's not just about attainment being super, it's also about what's the progress. Because you could be in a really great school and your children attain well because, you know, affluent environment, children just have it, they know how to learn, they're switched on. But if at year 1, they're, you know, at a scale score of 100, and by the time they leave you in year 6, they're still at a scale score of 100, that progress measure has just remained constant. There's no up. And the expectation would be, as a child is progressing, then in years 3, 4, 5, and 6, the progress needs to improve as well for each child. So that's something else that is really important to look at. And when myself and Mrs. Worrell were talking about this, and Mrs. Worrell is an advocate for all things reception anyway, the key thing that we both agreed was, if you're looking for a new school, visit the school during school time. And I know we're all really, really busy, but even if it's a morning appointment or an afternoon appointment, or if the schools are doing open days, go and visit, but do it when the school is alive. Okay, that's very important. Would you like to take that forward, Mrs. Worrell?
So what to look for when you go into the classroom? You will be looking for children that are calm, they're settled, they look happy. You might even see them singing them to themselves because they're showing really high levels of well-being. When they're in that state of well-being, you will see them really concentrating and being in the activity that they're engaged in. And when they're really involved in that type of activity, that's when they're doing their deepest level of learning in the early years. So when you go into that classroom, you'll be looking at how the teachers are supporting those children, how are they interacting with those children, because that's going to be the interactions that you get with your child will be getting when they enter that classroom. So it's important to go and have a look at a few schools that you've chosen when you've had your look online and decided on the schools. Then ask that teacher about how do they communicate with parents? What opportunities do you have as a parent to empower you in your child's journey? There's been a lot of research on effective provision, and it shows that parents are their children's first educators, and you know your child's strengths and your child's needs. And so you need a teacher, you need a school and a teaching staff that's really going to support your child's journey, your individual and unique child as they go into that classroom.
Yeah, I think when you go round to the school, it's very important to look at the facilities. So what's there that's going to stimulate my child as they grow through the school, as they grow at each stage. You also want to observe the conduct of the children, not just the children in the reception class, but around the school in terms of their behaviour and attitudes. Because what you want to see is, are the children engaged? Are the children motivated? Are they deeply involved in their activities? And Mrs. Worrell said before, it's really about the quality conversations that the adults have with the children in full sentences. In full sentences. I'm not talking about, you know, wild vocabulary, but we're talking about conversations that extend speech and language. Conversations that support the development of vocabulary. Those are really, really important. Also about the different activities, whether or not those are activities that provide a level of risk taking. such that
Okay.
children become more challenged,
Mhm.
and they are building strategies for managing when they're being taken out of their comfort zone of learning. Those are very, very important. And I don't mean risk as in, going down,
No,
Yeah.
going down is like, it's not that kind of
no,
risk.
it's having that
Mhm.
can-do attitude so that you can, your child can develop strategies later on for their critical and creative thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, from that point of view. And it's
Mhm.
also a school where the staff support children, and I think will support children in effectively regulating emotions as well. So as our children are developing the physical, the social, it's about, okay, what strategies are the school using or staff using within that setting to help children regulate when they're not happy about something, when they're having a fallout with their friends. And although it sounds simple, those kind of things are so important in supporting the health and well-being of children.
And
See, this is all so interesting because honestly, a lot of the time when you as a new parent are going into the school's process, you concentrate so much on that first reception class. So what are they doing when they get into school? What's happening there? But as you've rightly put and brought attention to, it's the whole school journey. You spoke about when you're looking at looking at their progress throughout the entire school, look at what the data showing for that. And also, where I live, it's a new build area, and a lot of us that moved in had no children when we moved here 6 years ago. Since then, we've all started having kids, and so there's a group of us that had children in 2019. My child was after September, but there was about 4 of them that were before September, and so they've all started going to school now. This is their first term in school. And so many of them said, when I said, oh, what was that school like? Or, do the tour. A lot of them only looked at reception or was like, I didn't really know what questions to ask or anything. But it's just so important to see the wider aspect of it. That's something that I hadn't really considered. And I know this episode already, there's going to be people who are pausing it, rewinding it, listening back and taking notes, because this is just important to know what to ask when you go to it. Emotional regulation, how they help with that, is the way in which they speak to the children. These are all questions that you often don't really consider at first. My question was just, just going back a bit, to the data in terms of like the GLD score and progression, where can you find that data? Do you need to ask the school for it? Is it online like Ofsted?
By rights, the GLD should be online, so all data should be online.
Okay.
So most of the data now, you should still have your 2022 data online, because the 2023 should be validated within the next month or so. So you will see how the school has performed in 2023. Most of that data should be there already for you. And again, you will see the national. So you'll see the national against the school's performance, and sometimes as well you will find the local performance. But I must add though, going to your local borough council, they do have, I know ours do anyway, have a plethora of information for parents to go through as well, with a range of schools. So that is also a very good place to start when looking at which school you want to go to. And I suppose it makes me think of something else, Amanda, in terms of when to start your child at school, because you just mentioned that your little one won't start until next year because I'm assuming her birthday didn't fall before September.
Yes, she's a December baby.
Right, okay. And you see and I suppose what I want to say to parents, and of course it is parents' responsibility, it's their choice, all of that. My daughter had a birthday on the 31st of August. So she was dead in the middle. So he had the choice whether or not to start her later or to start her when we did. And a lot of parents feel quite anxious, thinking that their child is a summer born, therefore they're not ready. Trust your child is what I want to say, don't we, Mrs. Well, I would argue, trust your child. And I think there are times as parents we are really anxious and we think, well, they can't function without us because they've only known us, we're just really important to them. The moment they go through those doors, oh my goodness, the confidence. Of course, there is a level of anxiety, but those children are just so confident, so excited. And I know when mine started, and she was the youngest, or remains the youngest in the school, it was, I love you, mommy, bye-bye. Off she goes. And I think sometimes as parents, we limit our children, and they have so much more resilience than what we give them credit for. Totally. Yes, there are some children who are still very clingy, and we understand that. And as a school, we have systems in place. But once again, this is about going into the school and seeing how they do it. We have tissues and tears that our PTA put on to support parents, and that kind of structure is in place. The children are absolutely fine. You see them waving, when I pop along to our reception, they'll come and tell you all their little stories and all the little tales, and just want to show you what they are learning. So although you as a parent, you're feeling anxious, it's fine. When you've chosen the right school, the adults in that school will just embrace your children, and your children will just flourish. And, there is not necessarily that level of, fear that we have as parents.
And Amanda, this all starts before your child starts in their reception class. And so when you have a really good school, they'll offer you play dates to come in with your children before they start their early years education. We have open evenings so parents can come in and they can find out what their children will be learning. We have build really strong relationships with parents by doing home visits. We really find out the strengths and needs of those children, of our children, before they come into the classroom on their first day. So they've really built a relationship with us where they feel safe and secure and ready to learn, and self-regulated learners throughout the school. And it's all about those positive relationships.
So so as parents, ask those kind of questions. Are you doing home visits? And the home visits aren't to peer and look in your homes. It's not that. It's literally to see your child and how your child interacts within their own setting. So those are really important. And asking questions. Okay, when are you having a reception, open morning, reception open day, for us to come along and for you to talk to us in terms of what to expect? Ask those kind of questions. A school that is closed to you, I would argue, is not an open school. And you want, as parents, openness.
Even talking about the home visits. So my goddaughter was born on the 27th of August. And so she was one of the youngest in the class. And I remember my friend, her mom was like, I'm not sure if it's time to send her to school, and maybe I'll keep her back another year. I just don't think she's ready. But if you meet this child, she's probably the most independent little girl I've ever met. And so she decided to send her. But they were doing home visits, and it was that worry of, what are the home visits? What are the purpose for them? Are they to scrutinize us or to check what we're doing at home or anything? But understanding that from the other point of view, what the home visit's there for, is to actually aid our child. So that's really helpful to know.
So when we go on a home visit, we'll take colouring or a book to read with the children. We talk about any worries or concerns that the child may have shared with their family, or any worries and concerns that the parents have. It's really when you go in, you're a friendly face, and then that child knows you're you've been into their home. You can refer back to them at any time, and it's really empowering parents in the process of their child starting school. It gives them a safe environment where they can talk about their expectations and the school's expectations and how they marry together. So really, that visit is all about empowering not just the child, but actually the parent as well. It's the start of their learning and their journey into education.
And so it's actually a really positive thing. And also, like right now, so my daughter, she goes to nursery, she's there 4 days a week, and we've kind of changed it over to similar to school hours, so like she's there from 8 till about 4. And it's my fear, and it's actually being really helped by this conversation, is that at nursery now it feels very much like this little home environment, and like I know that she gets cuddles whenever she needs to, and it's just, I don't know, it feels like an extension of the home. And so sometimes the thought of like going to school, and if she's feeling a bit overwhelmed, like what's going to happen then, or you know, that she's built up such bonds with the staff there. She's been there for like, you know, from when she was quite small, that it is nerve-wracking to give that responsibility to over someone else, and for so much of the day as well. It was only when she turned 3, so only from this September, that she did 4 days a week. Before that, she was only going 2 days a week. And so that letting go as a parent, but it's to give our child that challenge and give them the opportunity. It's just what you've been saying, but it feels like a lot.
And children are really resilient, and when they've built up a lovely attachment in their nursery, it's really easy for those children to then develop those attachments to other adults. A good school will actually go into the nursery school. We've got an on-site preschool, and we will go and do visits within the preschool, read to the children there and play with the children in the setting. If we have children come from other nursery settings, we'll go and see those children. We'll do a visit within that setting so that they can see that we've met with their key people there. So it is about building those really strong attachments with the children. So when they come in, they might be a bit upset, but you can talk to them and say, I know you're cross, I know you're angry, you've been left here all day, but this is the way we're going to work together and work this through. And those children are resilient, and they're able, as long as you have those conversations with the children, and also let them know that they've been kept in mind. Oh, do you remember when I came on your home visit? We played with and their favourite toy. It really helps children settle into that new environment.
So that's possibly a question as well that your parents could be asking, whether or not the key workers within reception will be going along to the nursery to the nursery staff. What kind of transition program is in place? So those are key questions that could be asked as well.
Brilliant, because I didn't even know that was an option. Like, that's incredible. And a question that I have, it might be a bit random, but you know, when it comes to choosing a school in terms of like the size of the class, so a fear that I have at nursery right now, there's quite a big like staff to child ratio, and a lot of the time, sometimes it seems like there's even more staff than the ratios are needed to be. And it's just what ratios would you say is acceptable for your child to thrive? Like, I don't know, to me, hearing about, you know, 30 children and one teacher just sounds like, how on earth do you deal with that? Like 34-year-olds.
You don't have that in reception. So there are ratios that you have to meet within a reception setting.
Okay.
Was it 1 to 8, I think?
Yeah,
it's 1 to 8. So you have to have that. I think sometimes, however, as your child progresses in the early stages, yes, that's fine. And they're there because they're still very, very dependent. What you want to see, though, as your child becomes to the end of reception, is more of the independence as well as the interdependence on staff. So you will find that although, yes, there is still a want for a better word, key worker who will oversee and work with your child, it comes to a point where your child needs them less and less and less. And that, for any good reception practice, is where you want the child to be. There has to be that level of independence.
And the environment is your third teacher. So when you go in to look at a reception class, you really need to ask the teacher in there how that they've set out their environment. So you're looking for key areas of learning and little workshop type areas. So for example, in our classroom, we'll have a big construction area, a little maths area with all loose parts, so children can use their creativity. We'll have water and sand, a book area, a home corner, which is really lovely and homely, with sofas. So it's really like a home from home. So children will be engaged in their independent play and learning. Lots of writing areas for them to write. There'll be lots of provision for them to writing. So you'll see little pockets of children that will be learning and talking and getting their social interactions, but then you'll see the teacher actually working with little groups of children as well. And whilst that's happening, those children are learning to be independent learners within that classroom. So by the time they come into year 1, they can go off to their ratios of 1 to 30 after having learnt to work independently within the environment. there should also be a really nice outdoor area that supports children's learning. So children, you'll see children free flowing from the indoors to the outdoors, choosing their snack. So they're really becoming those independent learners.
Yeah, and that's important, having a good outdoors area as well. Outdoors areas that reflects the good indoor area as well. Mrs. Wall said that free flow is very important. Yes, there will be times where the children are together if they're doing some fun activity. However, there needs to be that choice that the children make. I'm playing outside today. It's not playing, well, it is playing, but I mean, I'm outside today. And it's child initiated, and I'm going to be doing that. Well, actually, I want to come inside now to do a bit of construction work. I'm going to do a bit of writing, a bit of mark making. So there are those, and the activities that Mrs. Walls spoke about with an adult leading them, those are really important as well. So you want to know that within your reception setting, so any school you go to visit, that there are meaningful and purposeful activities that are set out for the children that enhance and develop the learning. You don't just want to be seeing a free-for-all where children are just disorganized and there's one more reason. You want to know it's purposeful. So as you go around, you're asking questions such as, oh, okay, so what's the child initiated focus on that particular activity? Or what's the adult doing here in terms of the learning? What are they trying to pull out for the children? Is that right, Mrs. Walker?
Children learn their best when they're in child-initiated learning. They get deeply involved in their own interests, and there are strong guidelines out there as how much time should be guided by an adult and how much time should be child-initiated learning.
Okay.
When you go into the classroom, look at those little pockets of children that are really learning from their child-initiated interests, and also those areas that they're being guided by the adults.
Okay, brilliant. And so there's a lot of information there, but now from that, we've looked at the data, we've seen what the progression's like, we've seen the Ofsted report, we've looked at the GLD, we've gone into the school and gotten a feel for it. Well, the kids are there, and we've asked the questions about how they emotionally regulate and how they do the transition and everything. And now we've picked our school. We're happy with it. We've gone through the whole process, the choices, and they've gotten into school. What on earth? So this is a transition, not just for children, but for parents as well. Maybe they haven't even been in nursery before, they've been at home. But what can we do to really support this now that they're in school, they're in reception? What should we be doing as parents to make sure that our child is thriving in primary school? How do we work with the schools?
Okay, I think the other thing then leading into that question would be, as you're going around, you need to ask the question about the parental engagement of the school. Okay, you want to know that they cannot stop talking about the involvement of parents in the school. How you help your child best is by truly understanding that your role now as parent is about partnership. It's a partnership between you and the school. If you are happy with the school and you know your child is happy, contented, feels safe in the school, and the level of learning is what you would expect, then you as a parent have to provide that level of positivity for your child. The moment your child feels that you don't like the teacher, you don't like the teacher, you don't like the school, it messes up the whole balance. However, you are feeling as the adult, you have to manage that as the adult. If your child is happy, if your child feels safe, if your child is learning, those three elements, that's what you hold on to. You have to, as a parent, manage character clashes. You have to do that, because what we're talking about here is a true partnership. It is about you as a parent being supportive of what's going on, you as a parent knowing the curriculum. So know what your child is learning, know what the focus is, and you will have all of that information usually online. The schools will then also send them out, because the government have stated that it's an expectation that parents are aware of the curriculum, what's being taught. You need to be visible. You need to be able to attend workshops where you can. We understand our parents are working parents. That's why we may have things during the school day or at night. It's about your commitment to that, you understanding, actually, I need to be visible. I need to understand what's being taught. And in understanding what's being taught, I understand what the learning is and how my child is learning. And that's the key thing. You know, when I went to school, for example, we teach subtraction, for example, completely differently to how I learned it at
Yeah.
school. So it's about you having that awareness, and the schools will support that for you. It's like phonics. Phonics, there's so many different programs. Know the phonics program. So if it's read, write, ink, and knowing who your special friends are, R, start the car, R, and you're practicing that with your child, that is how you support simple things like reading with and reading to your child, allowing your child then to read to you. The words may not be correct, and they may simply be telling you the story in their own words. You allow that to happen.
Okay.
That's what you want, because what we're asking is for parents to be visible, parents to understand, parents to continue to talk and communicate with their child and the child's teacher. And I say again, it is about a partnership.
Yeah.
We cannot do it alone. And as a school, we've always said that the positive outcomes we achieve at school is because of the tight partnership that we have with our parents. Attend the activities, you know what's going on in the learning, so you know what, extend those activities at home, try and find ways of linking those activities. And maybe something simple like, we're looking at autumn and autumn leaves, and we go for a walk in the park. It's great. Take that. Right, let's do some different leaves rubbings, or let's, simple, really simple things like that, such that you're able to show the child how to link their learning and to recognize that actually I'm at school, but learning takes place wherever I am. And it's that concept. Yes, very much about being visible. It's about being supportive.
It's about having those conversations as well. If you go to a good school, your head teacher will be meeting you at the door. They'll be talking to their children as they come in, and yourselves. If you go when you drop your child off, if you've got any worries, just talk to the teacher. And they'll be able to offer you some support and make an arrangement or an appointment to see them later if you need to chat to them a bit longer, if it's a bit more than, oh, my child didn't sleep very well last night and they need a little bit of sleep. Just keep those lines of communication open at all times. And if you're worried,
you have to say something straight away. I think sometimes where relationships break down is where parents hold back, and they think, well, that's only a little issue. It's another issue. It's only little. Oh, it's another issue, but it's only little. And then all of a sudden, you've got the straw that breaks the camel's back, and the parent comes in and they're just very, irate and upset. And we as a school don't understand, well, what's going on? Everything seems to be fine. It's about having those conversations. It doesn't matter how small, it doesn't matter at all. And as Miss Worrell said, in reception, that first term, oh my days, those children, they are so exhausted. So tired. And we'll have a little one just falling asleep in class, or it's where the parents say, well, I'm ever so sorry, still a bit tired, and that's fine, because then we understand why they're grumpy. We have children who, did you have your breakfast this morning? No. Do you want anything to eat? No. And then their behavior is just off the charts. All they need is a banana, or some toast. It's those little things. It really, really is. Our focus is very much, around the teaching and learning of our children, but it's also about the well-being. And that's the kind of school that you want, a school where the well-being is just as important, because we recognize that actually there are obstacles that children do experience in their learning. And if we don't, overcome those obstacles or support our families in managing those obstacles, then there is no way our children are going to be able to learn the very best that they can in those situations. So it really is about being visible, communicating, being supportive, reading with your child. Basic, simple thing.
That's the most important
thing. Most important. You'll think, well, I already read. I would read. Yeah, that's great. But even as your child becomes a better reader, you don't stop there. You continue right through that primary journey.
Really developing that love of reading that gives them that access to the whole wide curriculum.
Research has shown us that it is that, and what you don't want is for them, to reach secondary school at 12 and 13 and then become disengaged with reading. And unfortunately, research shows that does happen. You don't want that. So I know very much in our school, our priority is, developing a reading for pleasure culture. And our children are very happy to read here and love reading. And that's what you want as well. So even when you're walking around school, asking them, what's your priorities? as a school. What are your priorities then? What's the
Yeah.
focus? You want to know what their values are. What's their
Yeah.
vision? What is it that they stand for?
Mhm.
And if that's what they stand for, okay, then can you show me then
Yeah.
how do you make sure that your children feel safe, that the learning is engaging, and that, you know, the children feel challenged? It's
Mhm.
those kind of questions that you need to be asking. And it's not about, you know, I don't want your parents to feel, well, you know, oh gosh, well, you know, that's a bit too much for me to be asking, considering my child's just starting. Remember, if you've made your choice about a particular school, all being well, your child will stay there from reception right through to year 6.
Yeah.
You
Mhm.
want to know that that journey is consistent, that your child is safe, contented, and the values that you may have of your own are also reflected in the choice of your school, be it private or be it maintained school. That's what you want for your child. So it's not just because a year is only a short period of time from September to July,
Yeah.
and then
Mhm.
they move into year 1. And that's another transition. And
Yeah.
then from year 1 to year 2, that's another transition. And I think from year 2 going into Key Stage 2, that's an eye-opener. So you're going to have these levels. So it's a case of you have to feel secure that actually this is the right environment for these reasons. These are the values that the school says, and I can see are modeled. Yes, this is going to be the journey for my child.
Have
Yeah.
a
And
good look at the displays when you walk
Oh,
into the
yes.
school.
oh
The
yeah.
displays really show what those what the school you've chosen values.
Yeah.
They'll be up on the walls, and you'll see whether they value reading, whether they're and picking up books, whether they value writing. That will display the values that those schools have, and it'll be really prominent as you walk around the school.
As well as how the school reflects in terms of its diversity. So it's a case of, will my child be able to see themselves in this school?
Yeah.
That is also very, very important.
Will they get that real sense of belonging?
Yeah.
And it's not just that's through the books. Have a look at the books and see if they're inclusive, and if your child would see themselves in the books that are read within school.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Honestly, I feel like I have from this conversation like a guide of what to do when, you know, when I actually go in there, what to actually look at, you know, just knowing like to look at the displays, knowing about the importance of reading, because I already really enjoy we read at least once a day. You know, if we're out all day, there's always at least something that we're reading at nighttime. But just understanding the importance of it and you're right, reading is part of everything that you do afterwards to be able to unlock every subject, but understanding that curriculum as well. That's really helpful to know what activities you can do at home. And I can imagine that would actually be quite useful because, you know, sometimes the school holidays, the weekends can be long, and deciding what activities to do. If you know that we're doing autumn leaves in school, there you go. Suddenly I've got something to do it with my children at home. So that's really helpful as well. I think one of the biggest challenges, and what was really helpful that you shared, is looking past the possible personality clashes between you and the teachers, and actually just remind yourself those 3 areas you said, are they happy, safe, and I can't remember the third one now,
Engaged.
and engaged. If that is happening, if your child is happy, safe, and engaged, can we support the teacher and not talk badly about things and not let those personality differences overshadow things? That's a really helpful point to make. And so I've taken.
Sorry, I'm ever so sorry, Amanda. And I think
it's fine.
One other thing as well, and I think it's because parents sometimes find this difficult to trust the teacher. It's their profession.
Yes.
And the same way in which, you know, I'm not going to come in and tell you how to be a doctor. Is, you know, recognize and respect the fact that actually, as a teacher, I've been doing this some time. So what I'm saying to you, it's fine. They will be able to, or look, I think we need to refer your child because there are concerns that I may have. We're not going to do that in isolation. We will do that talking to you. But remember, the teachers are the professionals as well. And I think that needs to be remembered, because we're dealing with the most precious gift, which is the child. Parents do, you know, get very, rightly so, emotional that, well, you know, you said he was all right, but he's not now. However, you know, as we've had the conversations before, there seems to be a bit of a worry about X, Y, and Z. please, as parents, respect the fact that actually teachers know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't, as parents, of course, you will bring it up with the head teacher.
Yeah.
But trust the parent, trust
Mm-hmm.
the teachers in this process as well.
Yeah. And that's such a good point. And I think if you have done your due diligence in choosing a school that you're comfortable with, and you know that they're doing all these things to make sure that your child is thriving, then you've got to at some point, give that trust and trust to the teachers and their expertise. Both of you shared the amount of knowledge that you have, and it's just the same as in medicine. As a doctor, I am the expert, I guess, in the conditions and what the research shows, and I have a lot of experience from other, all the different patients, things I've seen over the years, but I may not be a complete expert in your individual case. So what your triggers are for your IBS, you are the one that have to tell me that. And so that's where like the parents will come in. We might be more of an expert on the child, but actually that wider picture of like what their development will look like, you've got so many different examples that we don't have access to. And so if you do your due diligence to pick the school and the teaching staff that you're comfortable with, and your child is safe and they're happy and they're engaging, then take on that advice. That's a really good point to make. We've got to trust it. And that's the thing, it takes that saying age-old saying about it takes a village to raise a child. If the school is there, take the advice and take the support that's being offered, definitely.
And a teacher would never if they found that your child had a need, they wouldn't be doing that in isolation. They would have they would be having those conversations with you as parents, with the SENCO, with the wider community of the school. We have external people that come in, so it's not the teacher making those decisions. We're actually taking a lot of advice from a wider range of specialists to help, just as you would as a doctor. And
Brilliant. Honestly, thank you both so much. Like I said, this does feel like a guide, and the whole point of this episode is to try and just take away some of the stress, because a lot of it is from the unknown. Even like just little things that you said, the stress that came with my friend when she heard about there was going to be a home visit, and what does that mean? Now knowing what that means has just taken away some of that unknown aspect of it and that stress that can be there. So thank you so much, and I will keep you posted on my school picking journey. I've got two open days actually coming up. One at the end of this month and one next month after half term. And so I know what I'm looking for when I go in. I'm going to start getting out the data and just taking it from there.
We're a lovely school in Bedford. So if any of your friends wish to hop along to our wonderful school, then be more than welcome.
Oh, brilliant. And in the description box below, I will leave all the details there of where you're working and a bit more information about the two of you. But thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you. We wish you all the best. All right.
Thank you.
And your followers and friends. All right. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you so much for watching along with the episode. I really hope that you found it as useful as I did. Make sure that you take notes, and I know that if you're like me, you're going to be going back to that episode and rewatching it and replaying certain bits. I've actually just finished doing all my school tours, and I'm on to making the school selection. Now, if you're doing that this year, it's 2023 going into 2024. The closing date for school selections is the 15th of January 2024. So hopefully this video has come at the right time for you to make that final selection. But yeah, gosh, when I was looking around the schools, I was often the one asking so many questions because I'd learned so much from this podcast. So yeah, I really hope that you enjoy it. Please leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube, and tell me what other subjects you'd like to hear, and tell me also about your journey of educating your child and how you found the choice, if you have already made it, and if you are making it now or about to, things that you are thinking about, what are the factors you're taking into it. Also, please don't forget to share this podcast with anyone that would find it useful. Subscribe to the channel. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple, please rate and review. Rating and reviewing really helps this podcast to be seen, and I think we're having some really important conversation that lots of people need to hear. So, guys, until next time, bye.